Hey YouTube, it's Eric. This is going to be a quick video here. I'm still planning on doing my stream soon on Vatican connections to 9/11. That video will probably be like an hour and a half in length. Just still gathering all the research for that. But I just wanted to point out today I was watching the Jesuit theater TV show Criminal Minds, and like all these Jesuit theater shows in Hollywood, it's right in plain sight. Almost all of the cast members inside of the fiction have Jesuit backgrounds, Jesuitical backgrounds in terms of education. And I did a whole video of this previously covering Jack Ryan, the antagonist of the Tom Clancy series, Ghost Recon. And Jack Ryan, like, there's been probably 10 movies featuring Jack Ryan, numerous video games, all sorts of books. Jack Ryan in the Tom Clancy book Red Rabbit, Clancy has Jack Ryan quoted as saying, "Us Jesuit products run the world. We're just humble about it." And I did a whole video on that. And of course, Tom Clancy went to Jesuit schools. He's numerous Jesuit educated. Um, I know I have actually. I have a video of on C-SPAN of Clancy speaking on his Jesuit training. If I can pull that up here, if I can find that quickly, I'll pull that up here for you. I just have so many. I had it bookmarked, but Tom Clancy speaks about his Jesuit training on C-SPAN. Just see if I can. Let's see C-SPAN. This is a fascinating quote, and especially the Jack Ryan series. Like, is just loaded with Jesuit theater. Yeah, it's this interview here that you can find Clancy. And Clancy talks about how much he admires the Jesuits in this interview. Yeah, roughly about the hour 45-minute mark right here. You can find that. So I'll link this in the description. But the show Criminal Minds, it's all about propping up the Pope's Fascist Bureau of Inquisition, or the FBI, making it seem that the FBI are good guys and the heroes. And, they're crusading against evil, trying to make the world a pure and a good place to be, which is a total full of shit. The FBI are criminals. They instigate crimes. They don't solve crimes. Just look at recently in 2020, you had the FBI was behind that phony kidnapping plot of the governor of Michigan, Gretchen Whitmer. You had FBI informants there on January 6th. That whole thing was the most obvious false flag from the intelligence agencies. And we called it out, right away on Cerruti Team Brief, as well as going way back to that Michigan plot. But the point being, the FBI doesn't solve crimes; they're there to instigate crimes and cover up crimes. Where's the FBI investigation on the thousands of pedophile priests in America? Where's the investigation? It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. Okay, so we see here the Criminal Minds. This is the show here. It's all about propping up the FBI as some superheroes. They have the characters have like they give them like super kind of human intelligence, almost making it seem that they're you know just propping them up as saviors, and that they're a necessity in our society. We have to have the FBI to keep us safe. But it turns out, like almost all of these Jesuit theater shows, that almost all the characters went to Jesuit schools, or a good chunk of them. So here I found the character JJ. She's actually a Canadian actress. Where's I know, yeah, Derek Morgan, played by Shemar Moore. He went to Jesuit Santa Clara University. Yeah, right here, Jesuit Santa Clara. That's where Leon Panetta went to school. And the founder of Apple, AC Markula, one of the co-founders of Apple. AJ Cook, yeah, this is the actress here. So her character, AJ Cook, she's Canadian. AJ Cook's character JJ in the show goes to Georgetown, and I found this in season 4. It's revealed season 4, episode 15. And you see here, JJ mentioned she went to Pitt on a soccer scholarship, but in season 4, she tells Rossi, another Roman Catholic in the show, and in the guy who plays him is Catholic. She decided to join the FBI after watching one of his talks at her senior year at Jesuit Georgetown. Of course, here's the quote. 41 minutes into the show, season 4, episode 15. This is what JJ says: "My senior year at Georgetown, that's Jesuit Georgetown, of course." I was graduating. I did not have a clue what I was going to do with my life. And one day I was in the campus bookstore, and you, Rossi, were there at Jesuit Georgetown promoting your second book. Sat through your whole talk. There you go. It's right in plain sight. Of course, it just makes sense. The Jesuits totally own the FBI, and you see that's why J. Edgar Hoover got the sword, none other than the sword of Ignatius Loyola, roughly about 1 year after the murder of President John F. Kennedy. November 24th, 1964. Kennedy was murdered November 22nd, 1963, a 330-year anniversary date from when Jesuit priest Andrew White, S.J., the Apostle of Maryland, sailed from England to America. And that's why the White House named after Jesuit priest Andrew White, S.J. You can find more information of that in Tupper Saucy's book, Rulers of Evil. And Tupper Saucy in his book, Rulers of Evil, makes a great point how in this Jesuitized society we live in, we're going to see the Ratio Studiorum, or the doctrine which governs the Jesuits' educational principles, be transferred and represented in all facets of society. That's being in education, entertainment, politics, culture, and that's why I call pop culture Pope culture. But that's essentially that's what this is. This is the Ratio Studiorum, being moved into society, into the entertainment wing of society, I would say. And we know the Jesuits, drafted the Hollywood Production Code of 1930. I have you can read this post here. Daniel Aloysius Lord, S.J., was the Jesuit priest's name. He was a fourth vow Jesuit priest. He actually wrote the official Hollywood Production Code of 1930. Here's the post of it right here. Jesuit priest Father Daniel A. Lord drafted the 1930 Hollywood Production Code. And of course, it's no coincidence. I would say that they say Hollywood or holly trees, were used in magic, magical rituals. This is what this is. It's the extension of the Ratio Studiorum becoming present in all facets of society. Entertainment's a huge part of our society today. Most people, like the majority of people, choose to entertain themselves rather than educate themselves. It's a great way to keep, the mass plebeians, distracted and content in their serfdom. Distracting them with bread and circuses. This is what Criminal Minds is here, especially with the FBI. It's mind control to make you think that the FBI are good people. And here's another character in the show, Alex Blake, and she was none other than a professor at Jesuit Georgetown University. See, Blake graduated from Berkeley with a double major. And she holds a PhD. She was recruited to the Federal Bureau of Inquisition at the age of 24. And of course, I've mentioned this many times, but the founder of the FBI, going all the way back to when it was named Bureau of Investigation, Charles Joseph Bonaparte, a descendant of Napoleon, was a devout Roman Catholic. He was a Knight of Malta. He received the Lateran Medal from Notre Dame University. He received, he was good friends with the Archbishop of Baltimore, James Cardinal Gibbons. And Charles Joseph Bonaparte viewed non-Catholics as heretics. That's the founder of the FBI, the very first founder. He viewed non-Catholics as heretics. We see here Special Agent Blake. We see here she was a professor of forensic linguistics at Jesuit Georgetown University. And you see here, and this makes perfect sense. The quote unquote genius on the show, Dr. Spencer Reed, had also previously guest lectured at Jesuit Georgetown University. Wow. During her initial time at the FBI, Special Agent Blake, quote unquote, was involved in some high-profile cases, particularly the Unabomber case. And there was some more Jesuit theater I saw with the Unabomber case recently, just because I watched the Netflix 2020 show on the Unabomber. There's a 2017 show on it, but they did a documentary in 2020, and the FBI agent that they featured in the documentary was Agent Moose, Joel Moose, special agent in charge, Joel Moose, and there he is right there with my mouse. He was the main feature of that whole Netflix Unabomber documentary. And look what I found here from February 2013. The Holy Sisters honored by the FBI San Francisco's field office. And there's acting special agent in charge, Joel Moose, right there at the presentation. Would you look at that? It's the Pope's FBI. Again, what did I say? Why do you think there's no investigation into the tens of thousands of pedophile Catholic priests in the United States? Why do you think there's no investigation? You have 7 Roman Catholic judges on the Supreme Court. You have Joe Biden's entire cabinet. It's either Roman Catholic or they're non-Catholics who are educated at Catholic schools. His whole cabinet. I'm going to be doing a future video on that. 100% of this current administration's cabinet is Catholic. Right there, Holy Family Sisters honored. Sisters of the Holy Family have been recognized by the FBI San Francisco field office with the 2012 Directors Community Leadership Award for their work in raising awareness on human trafficking and internet safety. Oh, would you look at that? Isn't that some amazing Jesuit double talk right there? Wow. And of course, the FBI has their annual Boston conference at Jesuit Boston College on cybersecurity that every year. And the FBI has their annual ICCS or the ICSS conference at Jesuit Fordham University every single year. Again, these are annual conferences. The FBI has 2 annual conferences at Jesuit schools on cybersecurity. And do you think it's a coincidence we're seeing now like an unprecedented level of censorship in society? No coincidence at all. Yeah, so there you go. I just wanted to show you that. It's right in plain sight. I was watching this show today, and I just said, I'm going to look up. I guarantee these characters all have Jesuit backgrounds, and many of them do. So here's this Georgetown's mentioned in this article here. In the beginning of the episode, teenager Nathan Harris, played by Anton Yelchin, accosts Spencer Reed on the subway, saying he saw him at a Jesuit Georgetown University lecture on sexual sadism and, quote, thought he seemed cool. Let's look at that. Again, all these special FBI agents in the show are lecturing at Georgetown University. I've covered this before too. Like Sterling Archer and the comedic intelligence community show Archer. Sterling Archer, it's found in season 2, actually graduates from Georgetown University, but they kind of make it an Easter egg because they just show you a photo of Archer at Healy Hall briefly at Jesuit Georgetown, and they don't describe the photo. So you'd have to know what Healy Hall looks like to get that reference. And here's that here. It's covered on Reddit. There he is there at Healy Hall. And again, it's Jesuit theater. Actually, I put this up on my Jesuit World Order blog way back, but in the movie Law Abiding Citizen, I found this quick snippet clip. You see right here, I posted this 2 years ago. Jesuit theater in the movie Law Abiding Citizen. Jamie Foxx's character, Nick Rice, goes to Jesuit Fordham University in the movie. He is a lawyer. In a scene where he is talking to Jonas Cantrell, played by Bruce McGill, there is this dialogue at around the 440-minute mark of the movie. Cantrell says, "You still torturing Brigham?" And then Jamie Foxx's character says, "Well, let's just say I'm less impressed with his Harvard degree than he is." Cantrell says, "Well, we can't have all gone to Jesuit Fordham." Which Jamie Foxx responded, "I went to Jesuit Fordham Night School. You know why I learned it in Fordham Night School? Law school's got nothing to do with law." That's right. It's a charade. It's to prop up the Roman power, or the Roman control system. That's what law's got nothing to do with principle or honor or about promoting justice. It's got nothing to do with that. It's about controlling society. They've been doing it for thousands of years. But yeah, I just wanted to make this video there quick for you guys. Just I'm going to be doing a video soon on 9/11. Zach, I see in the comments there, the Jesuits own this nation from the start. 56 signers tells the story. Society of Jesus equals 56. No, great. Oh, wow, great connection there. Of course, one of the main signers for the Catholic Jesuits on that Declaration of Independence was Charles Carroll. Jesuit trained for 17 years. According to Samuel Adams, Charles Carroll was the richest man in America, prominent slave owner. He was the cousin of Jesuit priest John Carroll, who was the founder of Georgetown University, right there in Washington, D.C., the district of Catholics, in between the state Maryland and Virginia. It's the new America is the new Roman Empire, as even John Lennon admitted to. Absolutely, Rome on the Potomac. Actually, I'm going to be doing a future video on that too. The Jesuit World Order. There's some great sources that were discovered here. Washington D.C. was originally called Rome, Maryland, and the guy who owned the land was actually named Francis Pope. Francis Pope. You see here, Washington official. This is from the 1929 newspaper, Evening Star. Let me get this zoomed in here. You see here, Washington officiated with Masonic ceremonies, and of course, the Jesuits created the modern system of Freemasonry in 1717. That's admitted by numerous Masonic historians, like numerous. And like, why else would the Scottish Rite Masonry have degrees named after the Prussian king Frederick the Great, when Frederick the Great was one of the individuals who had admitted the Jesuits into Germany during their brief period of suppression? It's so obvious. The motto of the 32nd degree of Freemasonry is Ad Morgium Deo Gloriam, the motto of the Jesuits. We see here Washington officiated with Masonic ceremonies and profession, including military and civic features. Land originally owned by Francis Pope and farm is believed to have been patented by Thomas Pope. Design of building obtained after completion had failed. Here's where it's mentioned Rome here. Many years before this, actually, I'll read it from the top. At the time, the federal government was planning to take over Maryland's portion of the original 10 square miles. Jenkins Heights, or Jenkins Hill, as it was called, was owned by Daniel Carroll, Jesuit-trained Daniel Carroll, who was directly related to Charles Carroll and John Carroll, who I just mentioned previously. Jesuit-trained Daniel Carroll, whose farm extended from Carrollsburg. And then you see in America, that's why there's so many Carroll counties in the United States. Like there has to be over 15 different Carroll counties all across the United States, direct named after the Jesuit Carroll family. And Charles Carroll has a statue in the Congressional Statutory Hall alongside Jesuits Jacques Marquette, Eusebio Kino, and the Franciscan mass murderer Junipero Serra. We continue northward to near Florida Avenue. On the east, it is included as a part of James Creek and Goose Creek, or Tiber Creek. Tiber Creek, named after the Tiber in Rome for some distance. Many years before this, Jenkins Hill was known as Rome. Rome. Just going to zoom in on that. Many years before this, Jenkins Hill was known as Rome. Its owner in 1663, and for some years later, being Francis Pope. And of course, we had Pope Francis come and give a speech at a live session of a live session of the U.S. Congress on September 23rd, 2015, kind of squaring the circle, or completing the Aura Borealis of the Jesuitical Satanic New World Order control system. Some years later, being Francis Pope, for whom it was surveyed on June 5th of that year. Though little is known of the Pope family, yet there is a probability that in this farm was patented at an early date in the name of Thomas Pope, and that Francis Pope, the son, later became the owner and had it surveyed. The creek which flowed around it was probably the western boundary of his 400 acres. He named the Tiber after Rome, perhaps more in keeping the combination of names than settlement. And then you can read the deed here. So I'm doing a future video on this, but this is official history. This, you can find this from all sorts of sources. This is from the Library of Congress website here, from an article from 1929. And again, but the point of this, going back to this video, this is all Jesuit theater. all the political theater we're subjected to, all the the mass uh, entertainment that's shoved down our throats every day. All the advertising you see. I did a whole video on Rome Flicks and how they did that puff piece documentary on the current Jesuit Pope Francis. Just a shameless propaganda. And then again, I mentioned here too, like you saw with Agent what's it called? Agent Blake in Criminal Minds. She's the professor at Jesuit Georgetown University who also did work on the Unabomber case in the fiction. But we see here the actual FBI agent who did in charge of the Unabomber investigation, Joel Moss, is here being honoring the Sisters of the Holy Family nuns, Catholic nuns, on behalf of the FBI San Francisco field office. Of course, San Francisco is a Jesuit stronghold, like a fortress, and it's very interesting too. Just that U.S. President Richard Nixon said that he essentially called San Francisco a shithole on his on his leaked recordings, but he said that I wouldn't even shake hands with anybody from San Francisco. That's President Richard Nixon saying that. So I think he would have an idea of the level of Jesuitical depravity that goes on in the city of San Francisco. And of course, the patron saint of the city is Saint Francis of Assisi. I know how fitting. The Franciscans were just engaged in absolute shocking mass murder and butchery in Ustashi, Croatia. You had the Franciscan priest Peter Breja actually slit the throats of 1,360 people in one night. 1,360 people in one night. He slit his throat. They slit their throats. Franciscan priest Peter Breja. Franciscan Father Filipovich was known as Father Devil. Yaroslav Filipovich, Bosnian Croat Franciscan friar. How fitting that St. Francis of Assisi is the patron saint of San Francisco. But yeah, this guy was known as Father Devil. You see here, convicted as a war criminal. He was executed by hanging in 1946. Again, no coincidence also that you had the Vatican. You had an open Roman Catholic priest. Joseph Tiso was the president of the Nazi puppet state Slovakia at this time. That almost never gets brought up by the puppets in the media who cover up for the criminality of the Pope. As I put on a video recently, even the Jesuit puppet Barack Obama, U.S. president, said, the media, you guys are better behaved with the Pope here." When the Pope was in the White House room. Yeah, I think that's all for this one video. I just want YouTube. I want to make this quick video. I was watching Criminal Minds today, and just I just decided I'm going to look into who's actually involved with the show in terms of the characters and their Jesuit backgrounds. And I find that like 4 of the characters are openly affiliated with Georgetown University in the fiction. Because it's Jesuit Hollywood, and I recommend you guys check out the video I did on Jack Ryan and Tom Clancy going back probably like a year ago now. Absolutely, just from the comments, Judah, Ronald Reagan was a Jesuit Knight of Malta. Absolutely, even spoke at a Knight of Malta gathering. I have that video actually on my YouTube channel. If you guys want to check that out, type in Malta here on the bar. I titled it "Closet Catholic: Ronald Reagan's Remarks at the Knights of Malta Annual Dinner." And there's some cuts and edits in the video just because I took this video right from the Ronald Reagan presidential archive page, or the Reagan tapes page here. And I put this on here. But you see, January 13th, 1989, trip to New York, for President Reagan's remarks at the annual dinner of the Knights of Malta at the Waldorf Astoria Hotel, New York City. It was right around, let me see here, the 15-minute mark, or 14. Here's where Reagan gets knighted right here. I'll just play this here before. There you go. There's a sitting U.S. president being knighted by the Vatican. Where do you think his allegiances, lie? And all of the puppet presidents that have come after him. You see here, right here on the seal. That's the President of the United States seal right there. Amazing. And of course, we know that there's a fasci. I'm just going to show you this. This is a lot of people probably don't know about this. And this is just Fasces is actually in the Oval Office at the White House. Here it is right here. The Roman fasces are in the U.S. President's Oval Office in the White House. Again, I mentioned named after Jesuit priest Andrew White. The Jesuits modeled the USA off of the ancient Roman Republic. There's the photo right there. That's right in plain sight. That's a fasces clear as day. Clear as day. Actually, I'm going to be ordering the biography on this architect. It's going to cost me about $300, but it's worth it because I want to get it scanned and get it out on the internet so you guys can watch it. But John McShane, his the biography on him is very hard to find. It's very expensive. But I put this post up here about 2 years ago with quite a few sources. He was a Knight of Malta, Jesuit trained, a Knight of St. Gregory, super connected to the Catholic Church. He actually designed the current Pentagon building, which was modeled off of Jesuitical war diagrams from the 1600s. And John McShane designed the Shrine of the Immaculate Conception in Washington, D.C., the biggest Catholic church in North America. uh, he also did the White House remodeling in 1951. So there you go. So I was just to say, so there's the papal connection to how the fasces got into the Oval Office through John McShane. You see here the fasces is right on the United States Tax Court logo. It's all over U.S. government logos. It's right on the logo of the United States Senate, for instance. The United States Senate is the Roman Senate. And of course, going all the way back in history, the first White House, named after Jesuit priest Andrew White, was designed by an Irish Roman Catholic Freemason named James Hoban. James Hoban, right here. Um, so there you go. Nothing new under the sun, as they say. Of course, the U.S. Catholic Church has their own special archdiocese for the United States military because the U.S. military is the sword arm of the Catholic Church. Again, it is the sword arm, as I mentioned. The U.S. military is the sword arm of the Catholic Church. Yeah, I think that's all for this YouTube. I just wanted to highlight that Jesuit theater there with Criminal Minds. It's just it's shameless propaganda. The FBI are not good guys at all. It's honestly a joke. Like they got. I'm gonna be covering this in my 9/11 video, but there's actually a photo of two Jesuit priests at Ground Zero, in FBI hard hats. And there just happened to be a Jesuit or an Opus Dei priest, Father Stephen McGraw, who was right there on the grounds of the Pentagon after it was hit by the missile. There's no evidence that a missile ever hit or a plane ever hit the Pentagon. Even in the video that that they released, right here's the photo. I'm gonna show you like in the official Pentagon video. Like if you pause it at the 6-minute mark or the 6-second mark, you can clearly see that it's a missile hitting the Pentagon. And the FBI, of course, 10 years later, released new photos where they showed plane parts like 350, 300, 400 feet away from the building. These tiny little dinky plane parts that the FBI obviously staged there. They show them 10 years later. It's just amazing propaganda. But here are the two Jesuit priests here in FBI hard hats. There you go. So this is who these are the criminals that Criminal Minds is covering up for by puffing up the FBI as noble warriors for truth. And it's no coincidence, just very interestingly, that a lot of the characters in the fiction are affiliated with the Jesuits' most powerful university in North America, Georgetown University. Yeah, I think I'm just going to look at the chat one more time. I think I'm going to sign off here soon. Absolutely. Rumsfeld said $2.3 trillion missing a day before 9/11. Actually, I believe I also have that clip here on my YouTube. Now that you mentioned that, Donald Rumsfeld, of course, was educated at Jesuit Georgetown University, but he didn't graduate. But Rumsfeld attended Jesuit Georgetown. Here you see here, yeah, I put this up in 2019. Jesuit trained Donald Rumsfeld says $2.3 trillion is missing from the Pentagon budget. And that was one day before 9/11. One day. And of course, everyone forgot about this story when the Jesuit puppets in the U.S. military industrial complex brought down the two towers and then blamed it on Osama bin Laden and Saddam Hussein in Afghanistan and launched a crusade with the war on terror. And George Bush called it a crusade 5 days later, and you can see that here. If you go, George Bush says this crusade is going to take a while. Crusade. That's he said this crusade is going to take a while. That was 6 days after the false flag 9/11 treason. Of course, you had Jesuit trained George Tenet from Georgetown being the director of the CIA on 9/11. You had the Jesuit trained John Brennan from Jesuit Fordham being the deputy director of the CIA on 9/11. You had Michael Hayden, the director of the NSA director, was Roman Catholic, and Michael Hayden, you can see him. He speaks at Georgetown all the time. He's a fellow there. Robert Mueller became the director of the FBI. I believe he became director of the FBI right around 9/11. Yeah, a week before 9/11. Robert Mueller, and this guy now is a distinguished fellow at Jesuit Georgetown University. Look at here. Look at this. Former FBI Director Robert Mueller to be executive in residence at Jesuit Georgetown University. Would you look at that? But it's also so when you see with Criminal Minds having their puppet FBI agents in the show, like in the fiction, having their agents going to Jesuit Georgetown, they're actually telling you in the show like who is running the show in real life. It's the Jesuits. So here, Robert Mueller, who served as FBI director for 12 years, will provide insights on his public service career to faculty, students, and leaders as Jesuit Georgetown's first distinguished executive in residence. Would you look at that? Oh. And then, of course, right before Robert Mueller, you had the director of the FBI was Louis Free, a devout Roman Catholic, a member of Opus Dei. Louis Free, devout Roman Catholic. You know, it was when Louis Free, actually Bill Cooper, intelligently pointed this out, is when Louis Free, devout Roman Catholic, Opus Dei, was director of the FBI. You know, the FBI was supposedly looking for Osama bin Laden for over 5 years. You know, they couldn't find him, but then a CNN camera crew walked right into Osama bin Laden's hideout and interviewed him on live TV. But Opus Dei, Louis Free, and his fascist Bureau of Inquisition, with all their hundreds of $billions of resources at their disposal, they couldn't find bin Laden, but a CNN camera crew did. So there you go. Yeah, but I think that's all for this one, guys. Peace and love. Absolutely. Georgetown U, the Jesuit rat nest in the sewer. You know, I think actually, I mentioned that Jesuit theater clip in the movie Law Abiding Citizen. In that movie, that you see, there's kind of an intricate system of tunnels that they set up. I would not be shocked if there are actually tunnels from the Jesuit White House to Jesuit Georgetown University. They're only a few miles apart. And the head office for the Association of the Jesuit Provinces of the USA and Canada is like a block from the White House. And you have the Jesuit St. Regis Hotel is just like another block from the White House. So, yeah, we're ruled by evil, esoteric sorcerers, psychopaths. So that's the Jesuit order. And yeah, the show Criminal Minds, just is covering up for their crimes. It's kind of ironically named Criminal Minds because no one has a bigger criminal mind than the Jesuit order and the Vatican power structure and their Freemasonic minions and all their various other hundreds of secret societies under their control. But yeah, I think that's all for this one, YouTube. Peace and love. I'm going to be doing my video on 9/11 soon. I wanted to do it earlier this week. It's just been very busy at work, but yeah, I expect that's going to be a longer video. And I found just a very interesting clip from the Smithsonian where they actually interview the Opus Dei priest who is miraculously there, at the Pentagon after it was struck by the missile. And the priest tries to play dumb in the video. And of course, the Smithsonian's logo is a direct ode to none other than the logo of the Jesuit order. just look at the two logos. and you see who runs the scientific establishment in the United States of America. And just look at Anthony Fauci. Anthony Fauci is practically he's a Jesuit priest. That's why I call him Fauci SJ. He was given the Ad Morgium del Gloriam Award, and he was honored alongside other senior Jesuits, him and his wife. But and of course, Fauci was the first speaker at the Vatican Health Conference in 2021. Francis Collins is a member of the Pope's Pontifical Academy of Sciences. And interestingly, so is the one a Jew in Biden's administration, Eric Lander, who is the current. I'm going to be going into this on the video on Biden's cabinet being 100% Vatican controlled, but he's the current 11th director of the Office of Science and Technology, advisor to the president. He is a member of the Pope's Pontifical Academy of Sciences. So, they run the whole show. This is kind of breathtaking how much they control things. Just logically, the Jesuits haven't faced any real resistance for over 300 years. Haiti, you could briefly, booed them out in the 1960s, but there hasn't been, and they came back very shortly after. There hasn't been any challenge to Jesuit power for centuries, and this is the result of this. We're descending into a dystopian nightmare. But I think that's all for this one, YouTube. Peace and love, and I'll catch you on the next video.